And welcome into a quick hit edition of Bleav Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. You can find our work across all major podcast platforms. The video is available at youtube.com/Bleav. You can find us in the playlist section there. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by my co-host, Jonathan Stewart, the Panthers all-time leading rusher. A couple of quick hits we're going to get to today on Bleav Panthers. A couple of programming notes as well. Next week, the week before the draft, our fave Skylar Callahan from Sports Illustrated, our third co-host who's been out kind of on paternity leave for it's been a hot minute now. I think he came back right towards the end of the season, and he's been out since then. I spoke to him yesterday. He's going to be with us. We're going to probably do some sort of mock draft up to the Panthers pick at 8 next week and just catch up with Skylar and what he thinks about the moves with free agency and everything else with the team so far. First off, though, Stu, around the NFL, I noticed that you had sent out an eyeball emoji tweet a couple days ago when there was some smoke. It's something about the past couple of weeks we've done this show. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been like this topic of conversation with us for some reason. And if you missed last week's episode, we talked about a potential trade of them moving up to the top 10 to leapfrog the Saints for a quarterback. This week, there's some smoke about maybe TJ Watt, star defensive end, maybe being disgruntled, maybe wanting to get out of there. Stu, do you think that the Panthers should kick the tires on a TJ Watt trade going into the draft?
I mean, I don't know if it's the Panthers, but I know if he's disgruntled and wants to get up out of Pittsburgh or whatever's going on over there, obviously we're all just sitting on the sidelines looking at the situation like,
True.
Is something happening? is he upset? We don't know.
What is TJ Watt?
But I think someone would love to have a TJ Watt on their defense, particularly the Panthers. But I don't really know if that's necessarily in the cards for us, unless we're talking, trade in the draft. Maybe he's part of that. Who knows? Yeah, it's a lot of speculation right now. But TJ Watt is a hell of a player, and he's always a brute force whenever you're on the field. Whenever you have to game plan for a guy and say, man, I don't want to game plan for that guy, that means he's a guy that you would want to have on your team. And in all honesty, that's kind of how you should look at the draft too. Whoever you're drafting, is he a guy that you would want to, if you were a defensive guy, right? Or if it was a defensive guy that you're seeking after, ask your offensive coordinator and say, hey, is this a guy that you would have a headache game planning for?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then that guy might be a very valuable pick. That might be your guy.
Who's the last guy we had like that? Brian Burns, maybe?
Brian Burns, off the edge, fast as lightning. That's a guy that you have to scratch your head about at night.
Yeah.
And I look at Christian McCaffrey. I look at, that's a guy that you absolutely have to scratch your head all week, probably all year. Leading up to the game, right? Yes. And he's going to take years off your life, right? And so that's kind of my thought process, even too, with like the first round, right?
Yeah.
If there's a guy there that kind of gives you that mindset of, man, I would hate to game plan for this guy.
Yeah.
I would hate it.
And I think that might be the issue with me with this draft, because it's like, how many of those guys are in the top 20, 25 prospects of this particular draft? Because I've said Travis Hunter, I think, is one of those kind of guys where wherever he ends up landing, whatever side of the ball he ends up getting, to play, if not both, you're going to have him in your game plan. Like, okay, watch out for this guy because this guy can disrupt the game like by himself, like that kind of thing. I think Ashton Jeanty can be that as well, depending on where he lands. And we talked about perfect situations last week. I think he could be one too. I don't know about the quarterbacks that are in this one. They're not the level that we said, before a couple of drafts ago, where it was like Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett. There's going to be probably at least 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round this year, I would think. The TJ Watt situation with the Panthers, though, that sounds like a move we make 2 years from now. Like when we're like knocking on the door, like we need somebody to take us over the hump. That sounds like that. Like, I don't know if TJ would want to come to us now while we're in the middle of still figuring out who we are. Money talks. I mean, that could maybe talk. Hey, let's go to Charlotte. But I don't know. I honestly, I think whatever's going on with TJ Watt in Pittsburgh, I think he'd be better off in Pittsburgh, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he'd be better off in Pittsburgh as well. Because I mean, they're not far off. We've been saying Pittsburgh. We're like low key Pittsburgh Steelers fans, ladies and gentlemen. But
even Steelers.
I think the right move, in my opinion, as you're not like in a rebuild, you're building, right? Mm-hmm. So like all you need is to figure out how many times can I get someone in the building to see if I get it right. And what I'm saying is, have an opportunity to build depth and be able to like forecast, what the future holds for this team. Get some second, third, round picks for that, that first round pick, trade back. Especially if there's not a guy that's out there that's screaming, come get me, like Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, guys like that. We don't need a quarterback, so that's off the table. I think this is a defensive, line, defensive edge, pass rush, group led or draft led group when it comes to talent, especially in the first round. Maybe there's an offensive tackle that we could go for.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Finding out if, because again, it's all about depth and making sure you have guys available to keep, things rolling and being sustained. And it's a long season too, right? So we've seen the Carolina Panthers go through their ups and downs where one guy goes down and it changes the whole trajectory of a season. So maybe you bulk up at the offensive line if the guy's there that you love. So, I mean, there's a lot that can happen, obviously, and we're all speculating here, but I love the idea of trading out of that number 8 if someone wants it and is desperate.
I think that's how it's going to play. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to end up playing out, too, that one of these, either a quarterback like a Jackson Dart's going to zoom up the list, or somebody like Shedeur Sanders is going to fall out of that top 5. And there's going to be a team in the back of the first round that wants to move up to get a quarterback, that needs a quarterback. Again, Pittsburgh is the first team that comes to mind that absolutely they've got everything but a quarterback right now. It's starting to feel like Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be the move, because it feels like if that was the case, he would have already been signed, already in there.
Yeah, you heard they got rid of his helmet too, or something like that. I saw some article about them removing a certain type of helmet that he uses and has been using.
Whoops!
So he could be forced into not playing.
He might be in the booth this year.
Make sure you fact check me on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll go back and take a look at that real quick too. But yeah, so we'll see what's happening with that. But we saw that kind of smoke there. There's a contingent of Panther fans, Stu, and I think they're a little younger. They probably weren't alive when Sam played, that feel like Sam shouldn't be on the Panther Mt Rushmore because he's not one of the Panther top 4 players of all time. And I'm like, that may be true. There's an argument there for that, but he's definitely top 10, and he only played here like 3 years. The man has a statue out front of the building. You know how many people, Stu, how many people have the feeling of having to walk past a statue of themselves on their way to work? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a different level of, like, the only person I think was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, after he retired the first time, they built the statue. He came back. He had to drive past the statue every day to go to work. Sam Mills walked past the statue. That statue's been up since 1998. Like, Sam left us in 2005, I believe it was. So he walked. That statue was there for 7 years before he passed. Because I was seeing people online saying, "Oh, they just gave it to him because he passed away." I'm like, "No, buddy. He was here and healthy while that statue was up. Like, they put that up the year after he retired. Like, he retired in 97, 98. That thing was up at BOA. Your thoughts on this? Because I know he had already passed by the time you'd been drafted by the Panthers into the franchise. But your thoughts on Sam Mills being in my opinion, he's cemented on the Mount Rushmore. Like, it shouldn't even be a question of is he part of the 4. My question is, who are the other 3 with Sam Mills, like on the Mount Rushmore? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first, my thought is always going to come from left field. Why are we so stuck on 4? Why are we so stuck on, the Mount Rushmore? Why don't we call this thing something else? Do we want to drive ourselves insane by saying, "Oh, I can't choose 4"? Well, choose 5.
Yeah,
choose 5.
Have 5.
Choose 6. Choose 10. Who gives a darn? These are some great legendary players that have played for the Carolina Panthers. Julius Peppers, Luke Kuechly, Cam Newton, Steve Smith, Musa Muhammad. You can keep going. Angela Williams.
We've been
Christian
blessed.
McCaffrey.
We really have.
And so, there's Thomas Davis, John Beeson, in a lot of ways,
Dan Morgan.
Dan Morgan.
We can go, 25
So
years.
Sam Mills, in my opinion, he's like a George Washington, right? You know what George Washington is?
Mm-hmm.
He's the nation's founding father, right? George Washington, nation's founding father. That's why he's on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, that's who Sam Mills is.
Mm-hmm. People don't understand the impact he had. He only played here 3 years. It was the last 3 years of his career.
He is what the Carolina Panthers embodies.
The keep pounding motto is from him.
It's the way of the Panthers, what went through his veins. Yeah. And he poured it and he sweated day in and day out on that field. And if you don't have that, then we don't know where the Carolina Panthers are.
It's the whole identity of the team. Literally, it's been that way since he passed in 05 and really right before it, where the pounding of the drum at the home games before the beginning of each game, that's Sam Mills. The keep pounding motto, that's from him. I get it when people are like, well, he's not one of the top 4 best Panthers by stats and blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. But he was the first to do a lot of this stuff. We won our first game as a franchise because of Sam Mills. Sam Mills ran back a pick 6 to win a football game for us. In our first year, he was the first All-Pro. He was the first Pro Bowler that was a Panther. He technically is the first Hall of Famer that the Panthers have had, they can claim. There's so many reasons to put him up there. Again, all those names you just named, from TD to Beeson to Luke, Cam, all those guys, ain't none of them got a statue. And they put this thing up the year after he retired. That's how revered he was. And I feel like the further away we get from him, probably maybe some of the ones that maybe weren't even born in 1998, when he retired, never saw him play, they may be thinking that. And the ones that are older are just thinking more of his time with the Saints before he got here. But he helped make the Panthers nationally relevant. People kind of forget by year 2 of this franchise, they were in the NFC Championship game playing against Brett Favre. He was a key leader, if not the leader of that team. So, I can't sit here and take him off it. It's easier for me to be if it's got to be 4 because it's Mount Rushmore, you got to start with Sam. Then you got to just figure out who the other 3 are. Because to me, leaving Sam out is just a disservice to the franchise. And everything we sit here and talk about every week, he's so ingrained into the franchise that it's hard for me to even fathom him not being on the Mount Rushmore. If it's just stats and stuff, fine. Change how you describe it. Don't be Mount Rushmore is the most important figures in franchise history. Say it's the 4 best players, because then now you've got an argument. But if Mount Rushmore is what it's supposed to be, which is the most influential, the ones that the actual Mount Rushmore, then Sam definitely has to be up there. That kind of takes me into the other part that I wanted to do today. I started thinking about it. I said, okay, Panther first round picks, all those picks you just named, they were all first rounders. We've had some great success. Marty Hurney, that was kind of his thing. Everybody kind of knew Marty's going to kill it in the first round. He's going to get you a dude, a stud, a starter. It was after that we didn't know the other picks. We didn't know what was going to happen. That first round pick was going to be a stud. I want to run these by you. I started thinking about them in terms of longevity, how long they played for the Panthers, impact, stats, what were they in comparison to their components in the league. Number 5, I have Thomas Davis, TD out of Georgia. The story was that they drafted Thomas Davis for the sole purpose of being able to shadow Mike Vick twice a year. And I don't know if that's true or not. John Fox was here when they drafted him, but I think he was a safety coming out of Georgia. They converted him to linebacker. He's the only NFL player that I can think of, I think maybe ever, that came back from 3 ACL tears and played. This dude played in the Super Bowl with his arm stitched up from having it broken. You played on that squad. You played with TD. Give us a brief little bullet on TD and his just his tenacity.
You know, Thomas Davis went through so much adversity on the field. It's crazy to see how he's been able to just overcome all of it while still maintaining this mentality, this competitive mentality, no matter what. I mean, he was a guy that if he was hurt on IR, he was still somewhere in the locker room trying to compete with guys. So whether it was like shooting something in the laundry basket, whatever. But, you know, Thomas, man, a little bit like Sam Mills, like he had that spirit in him 24/7. And he still has that. These guys that you put on Mount Rushmore, they were born different. You know, they were born different and they developed even more different.
Cut from a different cloth.
Different cloth. Yeah. And Thomas Davis, you know, he always brought the energy. But the energy was also led with accountability. He was a guy that was going to hold guys to what they said they were going to do, how they practiced, how they prepared, and how they played in the game. And then there's always that encouragement, you know, there's I remember countless times where, you know, I'd hear, you know, from the right side of the bench, "Come on, Stu." Right. and really just like that sounding, you know, voice of, "Hey man, we need you now." And just that when you get a guy like that where you respond, where like, yeah, man, I need to show up. That's a guy that's respected.
He's the only one
he's one of the most respected players I know.
He's the only one I could think of that if they were going to give a statue to another player, I would say Thomas Davis. Like you have Sam Mills guarding one entrance and you put a Thomas Davis statue on the other side. I think that'd be poetic and would actually, I don't think there'd be a Panther fan that'd be upset about that. So at TD at 5. Number 4, everybody Bleav Panthers should be very familiar with, Mr. Jonathan Stewart. He is the all-time Panthers leading rusher. He was drafted, 2008? 7?
Yeah, 2008.
2008. Came in with a class yourself and Jeff Otah actually at pick 19, offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. But Stu coming out of Oregon, teamed up with D'Angelo Williams, who was another first-round pick 2 years prior. He just missed my top 5. Became the only duo NFL history to rush for 1,100 yards each in a season. So I got Stu at 4. I don't think Stu's going to argue about the 3 I have above him on the list.
Man, I really appreciate you putting me at 4.
I wanted to put you higher. I was like, where am I putting my boy at? Like, and I tried to justify it.
I feel you, but there's the truth of the matter is that the Carolina Panthers have been blessed with some really good talent.
Yes.
And talent that's been able to echo outside of North Carolina and South Carolina. You know, before me, there was Deshaun Foster, there was Stephen Davis, and obviously D'Angelo Williams. But you talk about the guys after me, you know, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is going to be a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and he blessed us with his presence here in North Carolina for some seasons where he did some magical things, breaking records. You got Derek Brown. You got Chris Gamble. Chris Gamble's one of the – they didn't throw to Chris Gamble.
No, he just missed my top 5 too. Like I was looking at it, I was like, ooh, I really want to put Gamble there because he's really the first cornerback I think when I think of Panthers that were like homegrown Panthers, Chris Gamble. Because a lot of people didn't think he was going to be able to do it, and he did.
You got Moose Muhammad. You got Greg Olsen. You got so many guys that have been able to echo outside of the Carolinas, which has helped the Carolinas be where they are now.
And that's my top three. My number three, Luke Kuechly, future Hall of Famer, maybe the if not the best defensive player in Panthers history. He's top two, and the other guys right above him here on this list. Kuechly was the 11th pick of the 2011 or 12 draft. 2012. I'm sorry. Cam was 2011. So Keek was pick 9 out of Boston College, 2012. And I remember at the time going, who is Luke Kuechly? And it didn't take long for me to find out who exactly Luke Kuechly was. The only dude I could think of where it just felt like he was in every play, like every defensive play, his head is in there somewhere. He just had a guy that knew the ball was going.
He's a guy that loves ball so much that he knows where it is at all times.
Love that. I love I love the behind the scenes of him with the Xbox controller just watching film, like just nonstop watching film. I don't know why no one scooped Luke up to. Maybe it's because Luke don't want to do it. But if Luke ever wants to be a defensive coordinator or some sort of coach, I know he's doing it with you guys.
He's too busy right now. He's too busy right now, so he's not on. He's not on the market.
He ain't on the market right now. But look out! Watch out for Coach Kuechly. Number 2, I have Julius Peppers. Just made the Hall of Fame. Was the number 2 overall pick for the Carolina Panthers back in 2002. Yes, out of North Carolina. Dan Morgan was actually here before 2001, so you can kind of see them building. If you look at the first round picks from 2001 onward, Dan Morgan, Julius Peppers, Jordan Gross, Chris Gamble, Thomas Davis, D'Angelo, Beeson, Cam, Luke, like all a star, like all of it. Every year they just knocked out that first round pick. And I have Pep at number 2, and number 1 I have Cam Newton, number 1 overall pick, 2011 draft, the only MVP in team history, league MVP in team history, helped lead the team to the Super Bowl 50, and the best record in Panthers history. I think Cam is not the leading passer in Panthers history. I want to say that's still Steve. I think Steve Berlin has the record for the season because he threw over like 4,000 yards one of those years. I think it was like 99 when Berlin was here. But so that's my 5. Newton at number 1, Peppers 2, Kuechly 3, Stewart at number 4, TD at 5, and I had to leave out a whole mess of other first round picks. So I wanted to do that just to show folks, don't be so worried about what the Panthers do with this first round pick, because more often than not, whether it's Marty Hurney or Dave Gettleman or whoever the GM has been, they've pretty much knocked out the first round pick, especially a top 10 pick. It's kind of hard to mess it up, in my opinion. Like, unless you just really are trying to mess up this pick, it's kind of hard to do it. If you know what you want, you got good scouts, you got good talent evaluators, just don't reach for something.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here today, though, Stu, anything you want to shout out or anything you want to give out for Panther fans? Because again, this is going to be a compact episode. We'll be back next week, a little bit longer one with the top 10 mock draft and thoughts on Skylar's, thoughts on depth and everything else. But anything else you want to say before we get out?
No, man. I think next year is going to be a fun year. NFC is going to be wide open. And what we do now absolutely matters. And I think if I'm rolling with I'm championing Skylar's thought process, which is the right thought process.
Yeah.
As I've been a fan now since 2018, watching football now, I've learned how to be a smart fan. So looking at our Carolina Panthers going into this draft and the players that are on the roster now, I want depth. And I'm going to continue to go for depth until I see a player that's available that just blows it out of the water as far as value.
Yeah, same here. And again, I have trust in Dan Morgan. I feel like Dan kind of exposed what his plans were for the team last year, at this time last year, what he went through free agency and what they did in the draft. And I hope Dan is as freewheeling as he was last year in the draft, eager to move up, down, like just letting the board come to him. I want to see the man work. Like, I'm actually interested in watching. I usually don't watch like after the first or second round. I kind of just like find the results later. I kind of want to sit back on, it's weird to say it, I kind of want to watch day 3 of the draft just to see like what he does moving things around and adding pieces and picking up stars and diamonds in the rough potentially. But we got one more week to go next week before the NFL draft. We got you covered here again. Should have a full panel. Skylar should be back with us from the Panthers beat on Sports Illustrated online to help us just kind of figure out what the best move is for the Panthers. And we'll try to figure out everything up above the Panthers too, because there's a lot of movement going on in terms of smoke with teams trying to position themselves to maybe get ahead of the Saints. We didn't even talk about Derek Carr. Whatever weird situation is going on in New Orleans, sounds like the team didn't know exactly what's going on with Derek Carr on his shoulder. He might miss the whole year. So that might put them in play for a quarterback now, and they're picking right behind us at 9. So it's a little bit of interesting things starting to develop here in terms of our pick might become more valuable than we thought it was going to be. And who knows, Dan might be able to pull something off. But we got to get out of here. For Jonathan Stewart, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav podcast, the Bleav in Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Keep at it.